Today on the Elmore Leonard podcast, I am chatting with a different Alex entirely. This Alex is Alex R. Johnson, filmmaker and author of movies such as Two Step, which premiered at the South by Southwest Film Festival, and Brooklyn Motto, which came out in March and is great and is highly recommended by our nearest and dearest friend, Mr. Tom Sharpling. Alex, thanks for joining. I normally start these conversations by asking, what was the Elmore book that drew you in, that made you want to read more? But today, I'm going to ask, between your mother and your father, who was the better spy?
Yeah. Well, my father caught spies.
Oh,
FBI doesn't. I mean, listen, we're all speaking in theoreticals here about time that doesn't exist anymore. But the FBI is supposed to catch spies, not necessarily spy. But yeah, I don't know. Mom was an analyst,
okay.
so she did mostly translating, and I actually thought that she had stopped working in the CIA, and then we recently said something to my dad about how she had stopped working years before she passed, and he was like, "Oh no, she was working for them right up to the end." So I didn't know that. Just found that out recently, but.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, Godfather, DEA agent. Dad was career FBI.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what should we really be talking about right now?
Oh, geez. With the world today?
Well, I mean, how did they meet? Did they meet on the job? Did he catch her?
They met in Sunnyside, Queens, a block apart from each other.
Oh my God.
Yeah, my Ecuadorian. My mom's Ecuadorian, and her parents would always host parties because they didn't want their daughters out in the wilds of New York. Yeah. So they would host parties. So they hosted some of the best parties in Queens, and my dad would go to them, and then.
How did he get an invite? Was he like? Were they open to everyone?
They went to school together. They were. I don't even know, because my dad went to Bishop Laughlin and my mom went to. Oh, I can't remember her high school, but they're both Catholic high schools. And then, but my dad, as far as I know, mostly spent his summers in summer school, for various reasons, and then. One summer he didn't, and that's when they started hanging out. Yeah. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, and she didn't start doing CIA work until years later. It was mostly to kind of like balance, to have something to do when you travel, because we move so much. Sort of like being an Army brat, you move a lot. Being in the FBI, and Hoover didn't want his agents going local, as he would say. So he wanted to keep you moving and keep your only family be FBI family. And so we moved everyone to 3 years. But my dad realized in D.C. that he could transfer between the field office and headquarters, and it counted as a move. So
nice.
my brother and I were able to go to the same high school, like for 4 years, which is kind of rare. But my younger sister, I think, went to 3 high schools. But that's her burden, and she carries it.
Yeah, well, wish her the best. I hope she's able to. Overcome that.
She's working through it at 46 right now.
How come you did not join the intelligence service, as far as we know?
A slight rebellion, maybe. I'm not sure. I think we all, every single person in my family at one point. I mean, my brother and sister, we each went into quote unquote entertainment.
Yeah.
I mean, I got into production pretty quickly in New York, mostly documentaries and commercials. My brother went on the agency side, and then my sister worked for me for a while, and then she trained to be a chef, and now she does farm work. She does kind of like agriculture, farm work.
Is this the family farm? Does she work on the family farm?
She doesn't. I mean, she kind of is the one person that's trained to talk about it professionally, but she doesn't. She's an executive director of a farm upstate. But yeah, I think we always talked about it. It always was in my mind. But I don't know. Your parents did something, you don't want to do it sometimes.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to be a writer. I always, you know, I always wanted to tell stories in some way, and I just was pretty much, locked in that from eighth grade on, or maybe even a little younger. That's all I wanted to do.
So Brooklyn Motto is your first book. How long have you been working on it, and what was the impetus that made you buckle down and actually bang out?
Write it.
It's a great
I
read, by the way.
Oh,
Thank you for
thank you.
sharing it.
Thank you. I'm a screenwriter primarily now, and one thing that I was not aware of when I started was that you can write a shit ton of scripts that don't get made, and you can sell
Yep.
them, you can do work for hire, and it started to bear down on me a little bit, it started to wear me down a little bit, because as much as it is nice to make a living, but that's not why we tell stories. We tell them to have people hear them and read them. And I had the rough idea for this book originally as a TV show, and I did I had one of those calls with my agents where they were like, "What are you working on?" And it's one of these quarterly calls where they're just like, "Don't waste your time on shit that won't sell," type of thing. And I half-assed pitched it. I hadn't thought it out well, and I really did a bad pitch to them. And they were like, "That does not sound good. That sounds like a
What
waste of
was it?
time."
What was the terrible pitch?
It was, I think I was folding in, I really leaned into political stuff, and it was Black Lives Matter was happening at the time, was kind of like just kind of, taking hold. And I was talking about police corruption and the concept of like little corruption versus big corruption, and Giuliani in New York, and they were like, they heard period piece political, you know and I got really defensive about it, which I guess people will sometimes tell you I do. And then I was like, no, F this. I'm gonna do it. Like, I'm gonna write it. And I have this, I still hold on to this old process of developing stories, just doing something I did from high school, which is these spillage pages, these documents where you just like every idea, and you can't scratch anything out. And I do that generally for months and months, and then when I feel like I got enough kindling, I go into the actual writing or whatever. I some point slipped into first person narration,
Yeah.
and I was just like, oh, this is, I mean, I will not lie, it was kind of intoxicating. I'd never done it before, and then I just got into the noirness of it, and then I just realized that everything I was writing was a book. It felt like a book, and I was writing it mainly during COVID, and during the main whatever COVID 1.0 or whatever, and
Lockdown.
lockdown, yeah, and yeah, lockdown trademark TM, um, and I just I was in Austin at the time. We had moved to Austin for a while, and presented with crisis, a deadly disease, and people dying. I just started thinking about family and being back home, and it really just became where I wanted to be. And then when I finished it, I remember I turned to my wife and I was just like, I kind of feel like this is what I was supposed to be doing the whole time. Like,
Yeah.
I should have been doing this. I mean, I enjoy screenwriting, and I will continue to write for film. But yeah, and I just loved it, and I just suffer from imposter syndrome, guilt, Catholic guilt my whole life, and it just really took a lot to get past, the walls I had built in my own brain to prevent me from really committing to doing it. And now I am just like, I'm a little like, yeah, fuck, I should have started 10 years ago when people bought books.
I don't want to piss off your agents, but do you want to lean into, like, if you could only write novels, would that be your choice, or do you like to do both? Because more and more novelists are jumping back and forth between, especially TV.
Mm-hmm.
You seem to do a lot. You seem to wear a lot of hats. You've also got a newsletter, which I'm curious about. So, like, when you have a great idea, how do you determine, at what point are you like, this is a book, this is a movie, this is a TV show, this is an opera? Like, what's your process there, if you have one?
I mean, I'm developing that process as I go now. I have, I just spent like 8 months editing the audiobook, which I don't know why I thought it would be a quick thing, but it really kind of pushed all my writing back. I had this giant mountain I had to climb by doing the audiobook, but just being also a director, I couldn't imagine not being in control of how the words were being presented. I have a great actor that from Labyrinth and the Actor Studio, Bobby Daniel Rodriguez, who did it. But I really needed to have so I haven't done any writing really for like 6 months, and so but I've just been keeping all my notes and getting my projects in a line, and now I'm diving back in.
I've got a bunch of questions for you, but I am curious since this is the Elmore Leonard podcast. Is there a book that when you stumbled upon it that you're like, oh, this is pretty great, and I want more of this?
I definitely was aware of him in that Get Shorty time, in the discussion about influence on Pulp Fiction kind of time.
Yeah.
But when I read Gold Coast in like 2004, 2005,
Yeah.
I think, and I think it was really right there where I was trying to get out of being a producer, getting out of commercial production, and getting out of documentary production, and trying to be a filmmaker. And where I think I was looking, I was keen, my brain was more wired to appreciate cinematic stuff. And I was just floored by how cinematic it was,
Yeah.
But it's not just that, but that was definitely the one that started it for me. And I've reread that a lot since then. It's not my favorite, I don't think, but it's my like emotional favorite because
Interesting.
It introduced me to Elmore. But just the characters, like every character is so fully realized, and you think, it's like you're only getting the piece of them as it crosses into like Roland and McGuire and Karen's world, but you're kind of like, there could be a book about Jesus, there could be a book about Vivian, the secretary for the mob guy, there could be a book about Marta, maybe even, because they just feel so fully realized, and that is intoxicating. That's something that you just want more and more and more of, and it's just so consistent in his work, and it's just a feast. There's just so much, in the prose.
I think this is like one of the things that's that for me only a book can do is it could be 5 words. It doesn't even need to be a sentence, but it could just be this little nugget that's so evocative that it tells you about this whole other world that's there. We're not going to go down. We're not going to explore it. We're not going to talk about it any more than this, but it's there, and it explains so much. It raises the stakes. And that was actually, it's funny. I laugh at when you said Gold Coast. That was the first Elmore book that I read, but I think I read it when I was 9, only because of the cover, which was like there was like a lady in a bikini.
Yeah, I've seen the original. The original cover is yeah.
I got it back there somewhere, but and then I reread it, and I definitely appreciated it a lot more. I want to ask you about Jonathan Demme, who you got to work with closely, one of the all-time greats. Obviously, Silence of the Lambs, but also Something Wild, Married to the Mob, Philadelphia, all these great movies, but all very different.
Yeah.
Tell me about getting to work with him.
So I was living in Austin, and Rick Linklater has the Austin Film Society, which is amazingly supportive of independent filmmakers in Texas, and also a great revival cinema, in Austin. And they took one of my scripts to be a part of their artist intensive lab, which was like a 4-day weekend at Rick's ranch. And Rick has this ranch in Bastrop it's built to be like a colony of artists. He's got his home and his office, and his wife's got her office, and then he has like an entertainment center that's always open with this kitchen fully stocked, and then he's got a pool and a baseball field, and he's just got these cabins everywhere where he invites artists to do their work.
Amazing.
He's just and then they can have access to them.
What kind of snacks are we talking about?
Well, he was most proud of the fact that he had an ice machine that made the same exact ice that Sonic gave you. I remember he kept showing everybody that he had been trying to get it down perfectly, but now he finally found the brand that made a home version of Sonic Ice.
Well done.
But I mean, it's just, I mean, I'll get into Demme in a second, but this is just such a magical place. I mean, you know, if you ever wanted to bowl in a bowling alley with a French subway size poster of L'Argent over the bowling lane, it's someplace to go. But so I was invited, and I was hesitant, and they didn't tell me that Demme was going to be my mentor. And I was hesitant because I had done some kind of like, you know, sometimes you build it, you rebuild it, and you're just like, this thing has been taken apart too many times. It's lost its essence. You know, I don't want to go into some sort of like, you know, high altitude think tank and change what it's supposed to be. And they just kept saying like, you have to say yes. You have to. I can't tell you who your mentor is going to be, but you have to say yes.
Yeah.
And so I went, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And she's like, it's going to be Jonathan Demme. And I probably started crying.
Yeah.
You know, Demme's been so important to me as a filmmaker. As a youngster, as a kid, my first movie poster was Stop Making Sense.
Okay.
That I wrote to a P.O. box in the back of Rolling Stone to get, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember I was sitting there. I was told Jonathan was going to call me a few days before the thing started, and I was outside of dry cleaners, and I looked down at my phone and it says, you know, maybe Jonathan Demme, you know, calling or whatever. And we talk, and he's just so nice, and tells me, he's like, listen, so yeah, I just read the script, and I just want to tell you, we're not gonna take it apart and put it back together. Like, it's too ready. Like if we tinker with it too much, like, we're just gonna, you tell me what scenes you want to get better, and that's what we're gonna focus on, you know. So don't worry about it. We're not gonna break your script and leave it with extra pieces, you know, when we put it back together, which was such a relief to me. You know, he was sick at the time. I was warned that he had just come from chemo first time that I met him, and you know, and I was a little, you know, shocked. He was the first day he was very weak and very frail, but you know, we all have friends and family that have been through cancer treatments and understand the kind of wave of chemo, and so I knew that that was like the first, that's the hit, that's kind of what happens afterwards. But I was nervous, and he didn't seem to have a lot of energy. And then the next day in the morning, he shows up, and he's just like, I always describe him as like a Keith Haring painting come to life, you know, just joyous and positive. And he's wearing these like African print like pants, and he's so bright and cheery, and you know, everybody wanted, you know, attention from him, but he was so loving and wonderful. And so he had recovered and was feeling better, and that's the energy he brought to every day after that. But God, when we did our first scene, I've got the actors, and we're doing a private reading, just us, and I'm sitting across from Jonathan, and the actors are reading, and I'm just obsessing over what the fuck am I gonna say to these actors in front of Jonathan Demme, you know, like, oh my God. And then I just start spiraling, and then I'm like, I have not been listening at all. I have been in my head worried about what I'm going to say to Jonathan, and the scene is now ending, and I have no idea how it went. So I tried, you know, I tried to defer to him. And he was like, "Oh, you don't want me talking to actors. I'm no good with, you know, ridiculous stuff, you know, like I'm no good with actors type of thing." And then I kind of like spouted some bullshit and said, "But you know what? I'd love to hear it again. Could we hear it again?" And then I listened the second time and paid attention, and then, you know, we went from there.
Oh my God.
You know, later I was asking him, "But what do you mean you don't want to? You can't? You shouldn't be the one to talk to actors. That's crazy to me." And he said, he's like, well, I think actors are these just magical creatures, and I have no idea how they do what they do. So why would I, who can't understand how they channel this art and this gift they have, why would I start messing it up by talking to them? So that's where he kind of was with that. But he also made very clear it's a genre piece about expat criminals. It's sort of that are running away from past mistakes and crimes into the Andes, and everything kind of goes to shit. And it's
so this was not two-step.
No, this was not two-step. This is after two-step. And he said, like, listen, I do not put violence in the world anymore. I do not put negativity into the world anymore. But I did and because I did when I did, I can't hold that against you. So, but he just wanted to preface that he was a peaceful human being at this point. But then we talked about how to make a death scene more brutal. Right after that. But it was super surreal. It was like we just kept like looking at each other like, what's going on? Like there was a moment on the last night where he had a copy of Brady Corbett's Childhood of a Leader, and nobody had seen it. And he was like, this is the next great American filmmaker. And I want to show it to everybody. And so we had like a private screening in Rick's screening room of this film nobody had seen yet. And then meanwhile, like Nicky Katt's wandering around and he's complaining because he's making Billy Gibbons' recipe for guacamole and chips, and the chips have to be warm. And how much longer is this movie? And I keep reheating the chips, and if it's going to keep going longer, I need to make new fresh chips. And it was it was a wild experience. And I spoke to him a couple of times after that, doing rewrites. He kind of like helped me with rewriting some of those scenes. And the last thing he said to me was just like, you tell him JD says it's ready. And I was like, could you write that on the cover? Scan it, send it to me and everybody else, But he was speaking to me on a flip phone, so the concept of scanning was probably not going to happen. But
what a gift!
Yeah, he was amazing, and he was so generous to everybody. I mean, he listened to everybody's readings, and gave feedback, and was so focused and committed, and would hold court at meals. We would sit there and just I'll tell you one last thing. We were taking a break, and Rick and Jonathan were talking to me about something, and then it slowly evolved into Rick and Jonathan talking to each other. I think if I remember, they were talking about the importance of owning your negatives, copies of your negatives, so you can preserve, your own work through the years, and how you got to buy your library. And at one point, they both kind of quietly like turned and side-eyed me, because I was just standing there, and I just said, so can I just stand here? And I'm not going to tell anybody what I hear. I'm not going to, and just be here in this moment. And they gave me a small nod, and then they talked about some amazing inside baseball stuff that I will never repeat. And but I did get to hear Rick pitch Jonathan Nouvelle Vague, the movie that's out now.
Oh,
so this is back in 2016. And it was pretty amazing to see him pitch it.
I'm like, that is one of those things where it's like a little thing. It's like plutonium. It like means the world, and you can't really get it any other way than by slaving away by yourself forever. What are you able to talk about? So what was that? I mean, I want to talk about Two Step, but I'm also curious what happened to that script? If Jonathan Demme says it's ready, someone's got to make it.
It's come and gone. I think it's got a new producer now, and it's really what I should have gotten behind. I think at the beginning of my career, I listened too much to people that were saying, "Oh, this one is the one, and it's going to go, and let's really focus on this big script," after making Two Step, that I'm going to direct a $15 million production. No, I'm not going to do that. But that was the one, and we chased that down a rabbit hole for a long time, and it never manifested. I really should have focused on that one and trying to get that going. But I mean, I love it. It's a very personal script. Got new producers now. We're trying to get it going. We've had moments where it's they give you the casting, the whole like if you get one actor from menu A and one actor from B, we'll give you this much. If you get A, B, and C, we'll give you this much. And so we had the A, B, and C, and then it just didn't. Somebody's schedule fell apart, and then you're starting again, and you're trying to piece that like triptych of financial success together, and it's exhausting. But that's one that I've also been like, I would do that as a book in a heartbeat,
Yeah.
So that's on the list of things to do.
Sorry, I didn't catch the name of this
That
one.
one is called Any Rough Times Are Now Behind You,
Any rough times?
a title that I stole from a Dave Alvin book of poetry that I
Well,
love.
thanks, Dave. So I watched Two Step over the weekend, and I think it's really cool. It's would you call it like a Texas neo noir? Would
Yeah,
that be like a
Texas
fair?
revenge noir. Yeah, yeah.
It's great. How did that come
I
about?
was in the process of trying to get the Ecuador script going with an actor that I can't even think about without sighing painfully. Um, 1,000 word texts ending in namaste, where the entire text was like passive aggressively rude. Yeah, so I was trying to get this thing going with this actor, and it was not happening, and we had no money, and we wanted to shoot in South America, and so we would get actors, but their agents would always kind of put the kibosh on things. So I got to Texas, and I was a producer for many years. I started off at Maisels as a production assistant, and then kind of like worked my way up through various documentary production companies in New York. And so I have an understanding of. I've been on a lot of sets, and I understanding of cost and understanding of writing for something to get produced. And so it was just years of trying to get this Ecuador film made, and I just finally went like, all right, I'm going to write something. I'm gonna write something with a producer's eye. And I was just gotten to Texas, and I was so just absorbing it, at the time.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was also like evaporating in some ways. Austin, what was old Austin, and so I was at South by 2013, and I remember walking out of South by 2013, and I started writing Two Step the next week, and we premiered at 2014.
That is
So
incredibly fast.
yes, yes,
How many days did you get on that movie?
it was 16 and a half, 17, about 17 days. Let's say 17 days. I mean, we did. I knew that I had the South by deadline on my back that I had to chase, and so I shot almost all the. I didn't want to weigh down our production schedule by shooting all of our kind of interstitial stuff or grackles on the line, things like that, kind of the moody environmental shots of Austin that had to happen at a certain time. So I shot those all with like my Canon DSLR, and we used those to edit them into the picture. And then once we knew what we were going to use, I brought my DP back for another 2 days, flew him in from New York, and we just knocked out like 30 interstitials in a 2 day period. But it was mostly 10-hour days. The 2 days that we shot in the kitchen, where James is tied up, the character is tied up. Those were two 13-hour days. But
Uh,
because we were like 10-hour days. It was running really. It was run well. We were shooting pretty much in 2 or 3 houses in one neighborhood, and so we kept
mhm.
moves to a minimum, and a really great crew and a great attitude. But yeah, it was a great experience. I know some people left our shoot for a Robert Rodriguez shoot because he was paying more, and then they came back a few days later.
That's fair. That's fair. I tell me about this farm.
Okay, so yeah, it's called Hacienda La Chima. It's been around for a long time, probably 120 or so years.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
my great great grandfather, I think I'm sure I got one of the greats wrong, either not enough or too many. Juan Pio de Mora came from Spain to Ecuador with a land grant, um, and then he flipped sides and fought for Ecuadorian independence and from the Spanish.
How? Because he didn't like the
I think
land?
he no no he, I mean, he came from Spain, as like a baron for Spain. He's supposed to be sending his wealth back to Spain, and then he was like, no, we're gonna stay. We're independent. F Spain. So he became one of the main fighters in independence, in South American independence over Spain. But so it used to be huge. It used to be like my great grandfather used to go out occasionally to ride the border, and it would take him it'd take him like a week or something. He would camp and just make sure everything was still going. But as the family grew and people get older, and also like times hit and you have to sell property, it's now down to about 100 hectares, so like 115 acres or something like that. But it used to be choclo, which is like the kind of like
Corn.
the big like white nails,
Yeah.
fingernail sized.
My mom's from Peru, so I know my
Okay, yeah.
chocolate.
Well,
Yeah.
the reason the reason it's not choclo anymore is because of Peru, because in the '80s, Peru, I think it's the '80s, but around
Yeah.
the '80s, I think Peru started subsidizing their farmers to such an extent that none of the kind of like surrounding countries could compete with
Yeah.
with selling, because of everyone was buying Peruvian stuff. So it was always a money losing thing. I think when I turned 21, my mom was kind of like, so the family farm is a student loan that doesn't go away. And we expect you to contribute. If all you can contribute is $50, it's $50. If you can contribute $500, it's $500. But you're expected to put money in the kitty for the rest of your life. And it's to keep us connected to the land,
Yeah.
and to the country and to our heritage. So after the Peruvian stuff, the subsidies, we started trying to figure out. And when I say we, I mean my mom and my aunt, who were both alive at the time and were very much the matriarchs
Yeah.
of the family. And they were trying to figure out what we could shift to. We talked about tea. We were too high altitude for soy. And we switched to dairy. It was going to be dairy. And so we started small, but now we're at I think we got about 170 wet cows at any given time giving milk. We
Wow.
used to be specific, we were trying to only provide to collectives,
Okay.
but Nestle went in and bought all the collectives. And so now you can literally only sell your milk to Nestle.
Okay.
In Ecuador, in that part of Ecuador right now. It's the milk does better than the choclo, but it's
Yeah.
still a break even year is like
Success.
It's
Right.
victory. So, unfortunately we haven't been in a while, just because post COVID things got a little hairy down there, and a lot of the cartels moved in.
Yeah.
Starting in the prisons and then working out into the cities, Mexican cartels, drug cartels, and it's a little hairy down there right now. So I'm hoping to go this summer. I got to take my kid back there and keep him connected.
Yeah. So you did mention you were like, next thing that you have to do is a screenplay, and that's fine. But would you ever adapt Brooklyn Motto or any of your own novels?
Yeah, I mean, I want to just be. I mean, gosh, I just at this point just to control every aspect of it. I mean, I think I have a history of sometimes getting in the way of my own success. So I wouldn't do that if somebody with the massive clout wants to do it, falls in love with it. But yeah, I mean, that was the original intent.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like I need to get away from it for a little bit. I mean, I can't stress, like, I joke that a creative life is frequently measured by learning and unlearning Photoshop and learning it again and stuff like that. And so, like, I've now added this whole wave of like Audacity and Logic Pro and Isotope to do the audiobook, to edit the audiobook. I mean, I've just been like in that book for every day, editing.
Why did it take 8 months?
Well, my actor's availability hit a wall. I had a pitch I had to put together for this Brazilian director that ended up ghosting me, and that took some time. And then there were some issues with the recordings that I probably should have like had him re-record some stuff, but I ended up just cleaning it up.
You did it yourself.
Yeah, he. I mean, I feel like sometimes because I have a history of production that I'm just like, yeah, sure, and then I start organizing and orchestrating and doing, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I remember I stopped doing this, for a reason. I just want to write. I just want to do that.
Yeah.
So, but it did. I'm very happy with how it turned out, but it just took a long time with the veil and everything like that. And I did start and stop a few things in there, but yeah.
That sounds like doing surgery on yourself.
It was dumb. It was made, but I think it's, yeah, I'll say it's dumb. I think the quality is good. It probably could have been mastered better. I certainly have watched enough YouTube tutorials.
Uh-huh.
I don't need to do that again. Um, but I'm happy that I was, I mean, it was just like I needed to be in control of the pauses and the, you know, how long is that pause, which take and all that stuff. And but yeah, so I'm sorry. That's why it took 8 months. But what was the question? Was it something about like? I thought there was another question there. Maybe I
It
missed it.
just feels like it would be between you and the actor. I can just imagine casting Nico would be, like such a, like, how do you trust yourself to make the best decision for?
Well, I called up a friend who's a casting director,
Okay.
and she works a lot at the Labyrinth, and she's also a lifetime member of the Labyrinth Theater. And the Labyrinth Theater does a lot with Latin stories, and I figured she would be a good source, and so I sent her the book, and then we had a bunch of conversations, and then she recommended a few people to me, but the first person was the right person.
Yeah.
This guy Bobby Dana Rodriguez, whose family's from Queens. He's half Ecuadorian and half Mexican. Lives in Long Island City. He's younger, gets the changes, still understands the changes that were happening in the city, but but he was great and really great at voices. And it was his first time doing an audiobook, and it was just post strike, so it's just like I'm not going to not hire a SAG actor for this. After we did all this stuff. Yeah, I listen. Were mistakes made? Yes, that's the name of my newsletter, by the way. Mistakes were made. Um, but
Nice plug.
we're here now.
Yeah. No, I'm giving you. I mean, I'm giving you a little bit of a hard time just because it just sounds like a hard. It just sounds like
Yeah,
you ordered yourself a real tricky knot to untie.
I
And
did, and then I got too deep, and then I was the only one that could untie it. I mean, if my wife were here, she'd just be nodding like this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I told him.
when does the audiobook come out?
It's out. It came out this week.
Oh, great! Congrats.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's out there. So it's just out there now. I've been posting, little samples and stuff, but yeah, it's out there. Sounds great.
Beautiful. Well, I'm sure it was worth it, but
It was absolutely worth it. I'm very proud of it. I'm very happy. I'll never do it again this way.
I do want to say, on behalf of Peru, we probably wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for the Chileans trademarking pisco. So
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
it's
So
ultimately it's Chile's
I mean,
fault,
it's cause and effect.
and at the end of the day, it's all Spain's fault. I don't. We
It
have
is,
actually.
It is all Spain's fault.
It's
I mean,
all
that's
Spain's
true.
fault.
I mean,
Spain does not get enough shit.
They
We've
should
talked
get,
about this.
They should get. You've talked about this before in the podcast about Spain. Is that another segment? Is
Well, we
is
did-
this the shit on Spain segment? I'm ready.
When we talked about Cuba Libre, that
yeah.
was like a whole thing where it was just
Yeah.
like Spain doesn't get enough shit. So
Yeah, I mean, all the South American folklore, all the only stuff that survived was stuff that people memorized. Just oral tales. But it's like all the old stories, all the stuff about. I got obsessed with it. I was trying to do something. Still, probably will at some point do something about kind of like folkloric kind of type of story. But just all that stuff. Spain destroyed it because they could
heretical.
yeah, exactly. Just a fraction of it has survived. There's a lot of folklore. I mean, like there's so many great stories. Like, I mean, I'm trying to do something big, but it's like we'll see what happens. But like, I love the fact that the original Incan creator of the world. He wanted to make originally everybody were giants, and there are all these creatures and stuff, but humans were, it wasn't just their bodies that were large, their emotions became larger, and what was bad about them became larger. And then he was like,
Yeah.
I gotta get rid of these guys and start again, make them smaller, easier to manage. And so of course he went with a flood, as all great,
Creators
do. But one of the only creatures that survived the floods were the llamas, because they could survive at high altitude. So that's why so llamas are an original folkloric creature of the very first beginning of creation, and they're only around because they can go to high altitude because they got over the water. I
Right.
love that crowd.
Have you ever read Death in the Andes by Vargas Llosa?
No, I haven't. I will.
I know you're probably resistant because, well, he's no longer Peruvian. He's renounced his. He when he lost the election, he's now, well, he's dead now, but he died as a Spaniard. But it's great, and my Spanish is like decent, and I can get around, and I'm pretty good. I read it in English, so, but I mean, there's a real, you might like it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's it's much more intimate than in some of his books are like so gigantic, and this is just, it's little, but the way he plays with time is really neat, and just go read it.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it. I'll read it. I'm ready for. I'm ready for a new book. Just did my book club last night. Ready to pick up a new book.
Yeah, Vargas Llosa is a little all over the place, but just a wonderful writer, and he's like Elmore. He's doing exactly what it is that he wants to be doing.
One of the reasons why I love Elmer so much is that I just have my life. I have just created work that marketing departments don't like, and they tell you like you can't kind of like mix genres, or I don't know what to call you. Is it a thriller or is it a drama? Is it this or is it that? And why isn't there a body on page one? We need a body on page one, and then we figure out why the body's on page one. And my whole thing has always just been, you don't care about anything if you don't care about the characters. I just love how Elmore is character first. Is just everything is built on that foundation, and I'm sure he probably downplays his plot structure, but there's plenty there. But at the same time, he just does it how he does it, and that's and it's the right way. And I don't know. I'd had people with Two Step that were just like, we love how you made us care about the actors in the beginning of the movie, but the characters in the beginning of the movie, but can we move the violence up? And you're kind of like, well, no, because then it's just violence, and that's a different thing. And he just makes you care about everybody so quickly, so efficiently, and so beautifully. I love that so much.
You just made me think of one more question. Do you mind?
No, go ahead.
One of the things he does really well that I really get a kick out of is his use of music. It's not too much different than in a movie. Sometimes he'll talk about a band or a singer I've never heard of before, so it doesn't mean as much, but a lot of times they do. And Brooklyn Motto is filled with music, and I just was curious about maybe just talk about like how you decided when to use music and when not to, and as kind of
I mean, I use a lot of music and a lot of film references. It's kind of a way for the character to connect with his dead father. I think it's mostly about that period of time in your life. The book, he's 28 in the book, Nico, and God, music is important to me, but my God, it was important to me then. Like, just like free time was mixtapes and for friends, and and turning people on to things, and trying to seek out new things, and it just always set the tone. And I don't know, I feel like writers, I feel like maybe I don't know, maybe just me, but I'm sure everybody does it. But like you're trying to set the tone of your life, and I'm listening to music all the time, and it feeds, and I can have these visceral memories of moments where I listened to something and then this happened or that happened, and but specifically like in New York in your 20s, you've just got a Village Voice, and you can go see anything, and it just was such a part of that period. I mean, now I'm like, my wife, we just still go see a lot. We just saw the Saints a few days ago, and it was on the weekend. That's why we went. The amount of times we've bought tickets for things nowadays where it's like on a Wednesday, and it's like Wednesday, and we're just like, I don't got a lot of stuff in the morning. So now I only buy pretty much Friday, Saturday tickets. But yeah, it's still massively important. But then it would just be like, you're just out all night running from show to show, and I just just it's it's a soundtrack to the city, blah blah blah, crappy, cliche statement, but that's what it is in a lot of ways, and it's an easy way. I mean, I feel like one of the other things, to bring it back to Elmore's work, one of the things I love about his work is that sometimes he sometimes paints an incredibly visceral picture without describing anything. And I think it's it's because you have such an understanding of the characters, and he might make a film reference or he might make a song reference, and your brain just puts it all together and creates this fantastically cinematic thing. And you're like, wait, there are no adjectives in here. But you see it and you feel it. And I think that that's maybe a little bit of a cheat that I have leaned on a little bit in some ways as well. I love throwing film references into books. I had to pull back a little bit because it was getting a little much. But
I don't know how you don't include references to music or movies or TV shows and things, because it's like we're engulfed in it. It is organic, I think. So,
and it brings you back to that time too, like reading something like Gold Coast now, or reading, I just reread, Tishomingo's Blues, and even that's got so much in it too, and you just like brings you back to the period. Like when I studied film theory in college, and one of my favorite things is just like genre studies in terms of like what was happening at the time the movie was out, and part of that is like what was going on. And I feel like the same thing with like the film and audio references. They sort of it all feeds into that.
It helps a lot. Alex, thank you for your time. Thanks for your work, and thanks for coming to the Elmore Leonard podcast.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored. Deeply appreciate it.
The Elmore Leonard podcast is produced and edited by Judd Rubin. Music by Greg Ahee. Hosted by Judd Rubin and Alex Leonard. Executive produced by Peter Leonard. Copyright 2025, Elmore Leonard Inc. Please visit us at elmoreleonardofficial.com or send us an email at hello@theelmoreleonardpodcast.com.